Hello, my name is Jessica Smith, and this presentation is called The Pharmacist's Dilemma. So, what if I told you that I had this drug, and it could boost your metabolism, increase your energy, help you lose weight, improve your cognitive function, and help fight anemia? Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Especially here in America, we are plagued by physical and mental fatigue, and of course, overweight and obesity. If I could reverse all of these things by taking one drug, I would probably do it too. So what is this drug that I'm talking about? Most of you have probably heard of it because it's been kind of a craze lately. I know in the Memphis area, all you have to do is turn on the radio and you'll hear it being advertised, or walk into a pharmacy and you might see signs saying, "We offer B12. So what is vitamin B12? Is it really the panacea to the American life that advertisers and those on the bandwagon would have you believe? Well, it's true that B12 is used by every cell of your body. It's essential for cognitive function, DNA production, and blood cell formation. Further, our bodies cannot make their own B12. We have to get it by eating things like meat, fish, and dairy. So taking a little extra B12 through a supplement still sounds pretty good, right? Well, let's take a closer look. The recommended daily intake of vitamin B12 is 2.4 micrograms, so that's a millionth of a gram, very small amount. If you happen to take in too much of it, the extra can be stored in the liver. But here's where it gets interesting. The stores of B12 in our liver are about 5 milligrams, or 5,000 micrograms. So if you do the math, that means that for the average person, even if you stop all intake of B12, it would take years before you would notice any symptoms of B12 deficiency. I want to stop here for a minute and say that there are real reasons to take B12 supplements. People with a true deficiency, or those taking drugs that interfere with the absorption of B12, or those with pernicious anemia, these people should absolutely be taking a B12 supplement. However, the incidence of B12 deficiency, according to the CDC, is less than 1% until you reach age 50. So for the average person going into the pharmacy looking for a natural energy boost, B12 is probably not the issue. So some of you smart people are probably thinking, well, I'll just take a supplement and build up huge stores in my liver for later and then I'll never have to worry about it. Well, sorry. B12 is a water-soluble vitamin, so once your body reaches its full capacity, the rest is simply excreted in the urine. So yes, you could take a B12 supplement, and it probably wouldn't have any harmful effects on you, but you'd be paying a lot of money just to excrete it in your urine. So does B12 supplementation still sound like the cure-all to your problems? B12 is just an example. For the most part, these misconceptions can be applied to vitamins, herbs, and supplements. These products are not subject to the strict FDA approval process that prescription drugs go through, and for the most part, there's absolutely no evidence that the average patient will benefit from taking them. Again, let me emphasize that some people have a real reason to take these things. If you have a true vitamin deficiency, then yes, absolutely, you will benefit from taking vitamins. And then, of course, there's the placebo effect. For some people, just believing that that B12 capsule will give them more energy is in fact enough to give them more energy. It's not the B12 surging through their cells to energize them, but rather it's that mindset. But by and large, the vitamins and supplements that people pay for are, to put it bluntly, a waste of their money. So if this is the case, and pharmacists and healthcare providers know about this, then why is it that we continue to recommend these vitamins and herbs and supplements to patients? Well, it's that little thing that makes the world go round. As of 2012, the vitamin, mineral, and supplement industry was a $32 billion industry. It's growing at a rate of 5 to 7% a year, and the Nutritional Business Journal projects that by 2021, it'll be a $60 billion industry. So when you're an independent pharmacist whose livelihood depends on your store making a profit, or even if you work a chain retail pharmacy where administration is pushing sales on you, sometimes that bottom line becomes more important than the well-being of your patients. It gets easy to think, well, this won't hurt them, so if they want to spend their money on something that doesn't really work, I'm not going to stop them. The problem is, this mindset goes against the core reasons that most of us got into healthcare in the first place, so it leaves pharmacists in a tricky situation. Fortunately, we can help resolve this dilemma by taking a few lessons from marketing. Let me switch gears for a minute and take a look at an example of a company who used a successful strategy. Many of you have probably heard of Asda, which is a British supermarket that was bought out by Walmart about 15 years ago. Well, in 2006, there was a protest by environmentalist groups on the roof of Asda headquarters that demanded to know where their fish came from. The protest started at 6 a.m. By 6:45, the protesters were down from the roof, and by 7:30, they were invited to personally meet Asda's fish supplier. Because the company had not originally been transparent, people assumed the worst. However, as soon as they offered up their information, the issue was resolved. This was a teaching moment for Asda, and they have since strived to be open and honest about their practices. So what does this have to do with B12 and pharmacies? Well, the Asda example brings up two issues that should be addressed, not only in pharmacies and healthcare, but in any business. These issues are transparency and authenticity. At first glance, these words might seem like synonyms. However, there is an important distinction, and companies need to strive for both. So, what's the difference? Well, according to Merriam-Webster, transparency has to do with how accessible information is made and how open companies are with their customers. In the information age, transparency has become much more common and even expected of companies. When companies are not transparent, scandals occur, and they suffer serious damage to their reputation. But how open should companies be? Well, obviously you can take the transparency issue too far. With healthcare in particular, there are strict regulations on patient confidentiality and protected health information, and obviously this information should never be shared without patient permission. On the other hand, patients do not want healthcare providers to hide information from them, especially regarding their health and well-being. For pharmacies and pharmacists, transparency means making information regarding vitamins and supplements readily available to patients, even if you think it might lose you some sales. Now let's take a look at authenticity. Whereas transparency is about how accessible you make information, authenticity is about being genuine and ultimately about building trust. With Asda, being authentic about their fish suppliers played to their favor, and customer loyalty was unaffected by the protest. In the case of pharmacists selling vitamins and supplements, this means that instead of pushing a product on someone who might not need it, remaining true to who you are and giving them a genuine recommendation as if they were your own mother. Remember, even though you might lose the sale at that point in time, you are ultimately building customer value, which will likely benefit you in the long run. When companies practice transparency and authenticity, all parties involved benefit. In the case of pharmacies, there are three groups that are affected. The first is the patient. Because they trust you as a source of information that will put their best interest ahead of selling a product, they will most likely come back to your store and recommend it to all their friends. The second is the employee. Most people get into healthcare because they want to make a difference for someone, and making honest recommendations to patients gives the pharmacist a sense of accomplishment and boosts morale. Finally, there's the company. Transparency and authenticity are attractive qualities that will help build a good reputation and draw more customers. When people see the type of service they get at these stores, they'll go out and tell their friends. So what can we take away from all of this? First, I hope you learned a little bit about B12 and as a patient can be more aware when thinking about vitamins and supplements in general. Second, I hope that as healthcare providers, we can be more transparent and authentic in how we sell vitamins and supplements to patients. And finally, as students of marketing, I hope you learned something about business practices and the concepts of transparency and authenticity as a sustainable strategy. Thank you for listening.